Hello and welcome to the video of The Age of Pirates. In this video, our journey will take us through the Age of Piracy, life as a pirate, the pirate ship, women in piracy, and the end of the Golden Age of Piracy. This is one video of all the episodes of the series, The Age of Pirates. The Golden Age of Piracy was a period of approximately 30 years that saw piracy flourish in the Caribbean, the coast of North America, and West Africa. This era began in the late 1600s and lasted until the early 1700s. Pirates were drawn to the Caribbean because of the many Spanish and French ships that sailed through its waters loaded with gold, silver, and other valuable goods. The pirates were also attracted by the lack of naval patrols in the area, making it easy for them to attack and capture ships. One of the most famous pirates of the Golden Age was Edward Teach, also known as Blackbeard. Blackbeard was a fearsome figure with a long black beard that he would braid and tie with ribbons. He was known for his ruthlessness and his ability to strike fear into the hearts of his enemies. Another notable pirate of the era was Bonnie, one of the few female pirates in history. Bonnie was born in Ireland but moved to the Caribbean with her family as a child. She became involved with pirates and eventually joined their ranks, becoming a skilled fighter and a notorious figure in her own right. Pirates were not just a bunch of criminals, but they were also a part of a subculture that had its own set of rules and regulations. They had their own code of conduct, known as the Pirate Code, which ensured that everyone in the crew was treated fairly and that disputes were settled peacefully. Despite their notoriety, pirates were eventually hunted down and brought to justice. In 1718, Blackbeard was killed in a battle with the British Navy, and Bonnie was captured and sentenced to hang, although her sentence was later commuted. Now we will examine what life was really like as a pirate. Pirates were often viewed as romantic and daring figures, but the reality of their lives was far from glamorous. The code of conduct that governed pirate society, known as the Articles of Agreement, was a strict set of rules that pirates had to abide by. These rules included things like no stealing from fellow crewmates, no fighting on board ship, and no women allowed on board. Breaking the articles could result in severe punishment, even death. Life aboard a pirate ship was also incredibly challenging. Pirate ships were often overcrowded and unsanitary, with little room for privacy or comfort. Pirates slept in hammocks and had to endure extreme weather conditions, often going for weeks or months without a proper shower or bath. And while pirates were skilled sailors, they also had to be fighters, constantly training in hand-to-hand combat and weapons used to defend themselves against rival pirates or other seafaring groups. Despite the hardships, piracy offered a sense of freedom that was rare in the rigid social structures of the time. Pirates were a diverse group of people, with crew members from all over the world, including Europe, Africa, and the Americas. Many pirates were former slaves or indentured servants who found a new sense of agency and autonomy as part of a pirate crew. Pirates also had complex relationships with other seafaring groups, such as privateers and naval forces. Privateers were essentially legal pirates, sanctioned by their home country to attack enemy ships during times of war. Naval forces were tasked with protecting their country's interests and fighting piracy. Pirates often tried to forge alliances with privateers or even naval officers, offering them a share of their plunder in exchange for protection or assistance. As we learned in the starting of this video that piracy was a risky and dangerous business, and yet many chose to pursue this life of adventure and riches. In this episode, we'll explore what daily life was like for these individuals and the unique set of rules and customs that governed pirate society. One of the most well-known aspects of pirate life is the infamous Pirate Code. While not all pirates adhered to a specific code, those that did typically followed a set of guidelines that were meant to ensure a fair and equitable division of spoils, prevent mutiny, and maintain order aboard the ship. Some common rules included equal distribution of food, provisions, and loot, no fighting amongst crew members, and punishment for breaking the code. Pirate life was also marked by harsh living conditions, with crew members often crowded into small, cramped quarters with little access to fresh water or proper sanitation. Disease and malnutrition were common, and many pirates suffered from scurvy and other illnesses. Despite the challenges, piracy was also a way for many individuals to escape poverty and oppression. Pirates often welcomed crew members of all backgrounds, including former slaves and individuals who had fled from oppressive governments. This diversity helped to create a unique sense of camaraderie and solidarity among pirates, even in the face of adversity. Another interesting aspect of pirate life was the relationships between pirates and other seafaring groups, such as privateers and naval forces. Privateers were essentially pirates who were sanctioned by a government to attack enemy ships, while naval forces were tasked with protecting those same ships. This complex web of alliances and rivalries often led to unexpected outcomes and contributed to the overall chaos of the pirate world. In this third part, we'll be diving deep into the most iconic symbol of piracy, the pirate ship. From the small and nimble sloops to the massive and heavily armed galleons, pirate ships came in all shapes and sizes. They were often stolen or modified from existing ships, and their crews used them to launch attacks on unsuspecting vessels. We'll take a look at the different types of pirate ships, their unique features, and the tactics used by pirates to overpower their enemies. We'll also examine the day-to-day life aboard a pirate ship, from the division of labor to the living conditions on board. But pirate ships weren't just tools of piracy. They were also floating communities, with their own set of rules and customs. We'll explore the governance of pirate ships, from the role of the captain to the punishments handed out to crew members who disobeyed the code. Pirate ships were the backbone of the pirate way of life during the Golden Age of Piracy, from the late 17th to the early 18th century. They were vessels that were built, bought, or stolen by pirates to use for their illegal activities. Pirate ships were known for their speed, maneuverability, and firepower. They were typically smaller and faster than traditional naval vessels, which made them better suited for chasing and attacking merchant ships. One of the most famous types of pirate ships was the sloop. These were small, fast vessels that were often used for reconnaissance and raiding. Sloops usually had a single mast with a fore and aft sail, and were armed with a few guns and a crew of around 75 men. Another popular type of pirate ship was the brigantine. These were larger ships with two masts and square-rigged sails. They were heavily armed with cannons and swivel guns, and could carry a crew of up to 200 men. Pirate ships were often modified to suit the needs of their crews. They were typically outfitted with extra guns, boarding pikes, and grappling hooks to aid in boarding enemy ships. They were also often painted black and adorned with menacing flags and symbols to strike fear in the hearts of their targets. Life on a pirate ship was notoriously harsh and dangerous. Crew members were often subjected to brutal punishments for even minor offenses, and many died from disease, malnutrition, or injuries sustained during battles. However, for many desperate individuals, piracy offered a chance at adventure and the potential for riches beyond their wildest dreams. Finally, we'll delve into the history of some of the most notorious pirate ships in history, including the Queen Anne's Revenge, Blackbeard's flagship, and the Witta Galley, the first fully authenticated pirate shipwreck ever discovered. Now we're going to take a closer look at a group that history often forgets: women in piracy. While piracy was largely a male-dominated world, there were a number of women who made their mark on history as pirates. These women were often just as fierce and daring as their male counterparts, and they faced the same dangers and challenges on the high seas. One of the most famous female pirates was Anne Bonny, who sailed with the infamous pirate Calico Jack. Anne was known for her fiery temper and her skill with a sword, and she was feared and respected by her fellow pirates. Mary Red was another well-known female pirate, who disguised herself as a man in order to join a pirate crew. Life as a female pirate was not easy. Women on pirate ships were often treated as inferior to men, and they faced discrimination and abuse. However, they were also able to gain a level of freedom and independence that was not available to women in the wider world. Even today, piracy is still a threat in some parts of the world. And while women are still a minority in the world of piracy, they continue to make their mark as skilled and daring pirates. Now let's look at the challenges which were mostly faced by women pirates. Women pirates faced many challenges, including the fact that piracy was a male-dominated profession. Women had to work harder than men to prove themselves as capable sailors and fighters. They were often subjected to harassment and abuse from their male counterparts and had to constantly prove themselves to be worthy members of the crew. In addition, women pirates faced unique challenges related to their gender. They often had to disguise themselves as men to join a crew, as many pirate captains did not allow women on board. They also had to deal with issues related to their menstrual cycles and childbirth while at sea, which could be life-threatening in the harsh conditions of pirate life. Despite these challenges, many women pirates were successful and highly respected members of their crews. They were known for their bravery and resourcefulness, and some even rose to become pirate captains in their own right. Now I will tell you some rare fact of women pirates. One rare aspect of women in piracy is the role of female pirates as leaders and commanders. While it was uncommon for women to hold positions of power in society at the time, female pirates like Bonnie and Mary Read were known for their leadership and ability to command respect from their crews. Another lesser-known fact is that some women pirates disguised themselves as men in order to blend in with the predominantly male crew and avoid detection. This was a common practice among pirates in general, but it was especially important for women who faced even greater scrutiny and discrimination. Additionally, some female pirates were known for their skills in navigation and strategy, as well as their bravery in battle. Despite the challenges and risks, these women were able to carve out a place for themselves in the world of piracy and leave their mark on history. Now we'll be discussing the end of the Golden Age of Piracy. The Golden Age was a period in the late 17th and early 18th centuries when pirates were at their most successful and notorious. But what led to the decline of this era and the eventual demise of piracy as we know it? To understand the end of the Golden Age, we need to look at some of factors and reasons. One of the main reasons behind the decline of piracy was the increased naval presence in pirate-infested waters. Nations such as Britain, France, and Spain began to dispatch more ships to protect their merchant vessels and combat piracy. In addition, these nations also began to coordinate their efforts and share intelligence to better combat the pirate threat. This coordinated effort resulted in a significant decrease in pirate attacks. Another factor that contributed to the end of the Golden Age of Piracy was the changing attitudes towards piracy among the general public. As piracy became less romanticized and more widely condemned, it became more difficult for pirates to find support and sanctuary among coastal communities. This loss of support made it harder for pirates to replenish their supplies and recruit new crew members. The efforts of pirate hunters also played a significant role in bringing an end to the Golden Age of Piracy. Woodes Rogers, a former privateer, was appointed governor of the Bahamas in 1718 with the mission of putting an end to the rampant piracy in the area. Rogers employed a mix of persuasion and force, offering pardons to pirates who surrendered and threatening severe punishment for those who continued to resist. His efforts were ultimately successful, and by 1720, piracy in the Bahamas had been largely eradicated. As the Golden Age of Piracy came to a close, many former pirates sought to turn their lives around and obtain legitimate employment. Some became fishermen, while others joined the Navy or merchant marine. However, others continued to engage in piracy or other forms of criminal activity, leading to ongoing conflicts with law enforcement. Another factor that contributed to the end of the Golden Age of Piracy was that perhaps the most famous pirate hunter of all was Blackbeard's nemesis, Lieutenant Robert Maynard. Maynard led a group of men to Ocracoke Island in North Carolina, where he engaged in a brutal battle with Blackbeard and his crew. Maynard emerged victorious, killing Blackbeard and effectively ending his reign of terror. These pirate hunters and their efforts played a significant role in the end of the Golden Age of Piracy, as they disrupted the pirate networks and eliminated some of the most notorious pirates of the time. But what was the impact of the end of piracy on international trade and commerce? The decline of piracy allowed for increased safety and security on the high seas, which in turn led to more efficient and profitable trade routes. However, the end of piracy also had a significant impact on the economies of coastal communities that relied on piracy as a source of income. Finally, the end of the Golden Age of Piracy had a significant impact on international trade and commerce. Throughout the early 18th century, piracy was a major threat to merchant ships and trade routes across the Atlantic, Indian, and Pacific Oceans. The constant threat of piracy forced many nations to increase their naval presence, leading to increased costs and efforts in protecting their trade interests. As piracy began to decline, international trade routes became safer and more efficient, leading to an increase in commerce and economic growth. With the decline of piracy, merchants were able to travel longer distances and engage in trade with new markets, leading to an expansion of global trade networks. This, in turn, led to the rise of powerful trading nations, such as Great Britain, who were able to capitalize on the newfound opportunities of a more secure trading environment. However, the end of piracy also had negative effects on certain economies. Many ports and towns that relied heavily on the pirate trade saw a decline in economic activity and struggled to adapt to the changing environment. Additionally, many former pirates were left with few alternatives for earning a living and turned to other forms of criminal activity, leading to new challenges for law enforcement agencies. Overall, the end of the Golden Age of Piracy marked a significant shift in the global economic landscape. While the decline of piracy led to greater security for international trade routes and the expansion of global commerce, it also brought challenges for those who relied on the pirate trade and resulted in new forms of criminal activity. In short, the end of the Golden Age of Piracy was the result of a combination of factors, including the increasing strength of colonial powers, the actions of naval forces, and changing economic conditions. However, despite the decline of piracy in the Caribbean, the legacy of the Golden Age continues to capture the imaginations of people around the world to this day. Thank you for watching this complete video, and we hope you've enjoyed this video of the Age of Pirates.